Hey everybody, Cody here from Venomous Wargaming, back with you guys with another book review, the second in my series. I haven't been doing a whole bunch of them because I haven't actually gotten a whole bunch of books that this channel plays on, or plays with, I should say. So, without further ado, we're going to dive straight into Legions of Nagash. So, if you're watching this from the Battle Report and you already watched the Battle Report, that's a part of this book review, and obviously the release of the new Death Battletome. If you went ahead and watched that already, then you're going to see just a little bit more of the rules from the other legions. If you have not watched that battle report yet, there's going to be a link to it in the video description below. You guys can go ahead and jump over to the battle report at any point in this book review if you are done watching it, or if you just want to watch a whole book review and jump over, there you go. I'm not going to be able to go over everything due to like copyright and stuff like that. I'm not going to list off every single rule because then there would be no point in you guys buying the book. So I'm just going to go through, tell you guys a couple command traits, a couple artifacts, show you guys some of the pictures in the book, as well as talk to you a little bit about the lore, give you a little bit of emphasis on what I think is great about the book, which is everything. And yeah, we're going to get right into it. So, obviously, this is what the cover looks like. So as you pop it open, there's a beautiful amount of artwork in this book. So the table of contents is like every other book in Games Workshop's Warhammer anything kind of Battletomes, codexes, even the rule book. I'd say probably the first quarter, roughly maybe even half the book is pure lore. So it's titled The Lord of Undeath, so you get to read about Nagash. Nagash Resurgent, Missing Souls, The Realm of Death, Legions of Nagash, A Legacy of Darkness, and then you get to read about kind of every death unit that's out there, in the game at least. So you get to read about Nagash, Neferta, Manfred, Arcan, Morghast, Soulblight Vampires, Nighthaunt Spirits, the Death Rattle Legions, Death Mages, and Dead Walkers, and the Beast of the Grave, which are like zombie dragons and Terrorgeist. And that's pretty cool. And you get to read about armies of the undead, whether they be Soulblight, Nighthaunt, Death Rattle, all that stuff. It's a big mixed bag in this book, and it's great. If you want to read up on any of this lore, definitely get into this book. I might do like a story time sort of thing at a later point, and read off like section of this book in separate videos so you guys can get in touch with that lore. I need to actually start doing that on this channel, get some more views and keep you guys up to date on that. So, the next part of the book is Death Ascendant, and that's where you get the actual rules for the undead. So, starting things off, you've got 4 new allegiances in this book. Well, technically more than that, but they're not really new. But there are definitely 4 new ones. So you've got the Grand Host of Nagash, the Legion of Sacrament, the Legion of Blood, and the Legion of Night. Each of them are led by their respective Mortarchs, except for obviously the Grand Host of Nagash. If you include him as in that army list for that allegiance, he has to be the general. For the Legion of Sacrament, it's Arcan. For the Legion of Blood, it's Neferta. And for Legion Knight, it's Manfred von Karstein. So, cool beans. If you guys go ahead and watch that battle report, you'll see that I was using Legion of Night led by Manfred. My goal is to hopefully soon, I want to try and get Neferta and be able to cover Legion of Sacrament, and I want to get some Blood Knights. If you guys know anything about Blood Knights, they're $99 for 5 off GW. They're metal, and they're very hard to come by. Also, I might just convert some High Elf cavalry into them. I don't know. You guys might see them on the channel. If you guys don't worry about it. I'm working on it in the background. So carrying on straight into the rest of the book, you've got the new Lores of the Dead, which this is awesome. So there's 2 new spell trees you go into. So whenever you take a Death Wizard, whether it be a Vampire Wizard or a Death Mage, in an army list that's using one of these new allegiances, they generate an extra spell, or an additional spell, from Lores of the Dead. If they are a Death Mage, they go from, I believe, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I know one of them is definitely Lore of Vampires, and I think the other one is actually just Lore of Death Mages, I think is literally what it's called. But you basically get whatever spells are on your War Scroll, and then you get an additional spell from there, and they're pretty nice. I'll go over a couple of them in a minute. You got new allegiance abilities for Soulblight, Grand Alliance Death. I don't really think anything too much has changed. And you got a Path to Glory campaign little add-on in here for death. That's pretty cool. And obviously warband tables, a warband roster. You've got a couple of missions in here for us to use. And a whole bunch of war scrolls for the battalions. And they're pretty nice, let me tell you guys about that. So we're going to go straight over to all the Death Ascendant part of the book. So we can go over all the legions for you guys and just touch on them just a little bit. So like I said, Grand Host of Nagash, if you take Nagash, he has to be the general. So basically, in a nutshell, what Grand Host of Nagash is all about is one of the special rules called Chosen Guardians. Add one to the attack characteristics of all melee weapons used by Grand Host Nagash Morghast units. So if you got Morghast, you got more than maybe 2 to 4 of them, and you got quite a few of them, definitely use this. Anytime you can get an extra attack on Morghast, they are terrifying. I've never used them myself. I really want to get some Morghast, but every time I've seen them perform in other YouTube channel battle reports, like mini wargaming, stuff like that, they've always been ferocious. And I love the models. They look amazing. They've got Legions Innumerable, so in your hero phase, you may roll a dice for each friendly Grand Host of Nagash summonable unit on the battlefield. On a 5-up, you can heal up to D3 wounds that have been allocated to it. And if they have wound characteristics of 1, you can return those slain models. So, pretty cool. Everybody seems to have roughly the same command ability of Endless Legions, which is just like returning stuff from a graveyard. But that's only summonable units. For a command trait, I'm just going to pick one from every legion that I really like. So for command traits in Grand Host Nagash, the one I really like is Lord of Nagashazar. So add one to the attack characteristics of melee weapons used by friendly Death Rattle units that are within 6 inches of this general. If you guys go and watch that battle report where I used Legion of Night, you'll see the Graveguard put in a tremendous amount of work for only being a 10-man unit. So if you run, 20 to 40 Graveguard, and you run around with the Lord of Nagashazar, and you go, oh yeah, you guys have +1 attack. That gives them 3 attacks apiece, 4 on the Seneschal, and then you take a White King, you buff them even more, and they start getting really ridiculous. I love Graveguard, though. I've only used them once, and they're great. Another artifact is interesting for this is Terrorgeist Mantle. So in your shooting phase, you declare that the bearer will unleash a Death Shriek. If you watch the Flesh Eater Court battle reports that I do so much for you guys, and you know and love so much, you'll see that I love those Terrorgeist. So you pick an enemy unit within 10 inches of bearer, roll 2 dice. If the total is higher than the enemy unit's bravery characteristic, it suffers a number of mortal wounds equal to the difference. Now I know that's not such a popular thing to do, considering a lot of the tougher armies are usually bravery 7 and above. Seraphon, for instance, are bravery 10 across the board, just like Death are. So that's a little tough to get by. But you guys will find as you read through this book on your own, you'll find there's a good amount of stuff that decreases bravery now. So that's really nice. And that's really it for Grand Host of Nagash. Legion of Sacrament, however, is if you take a Mortarch, it has to be led by Arcan. He has to be your general. So for command trait from that, you can use Bound to the Master. So this general may use Arcan the Black's First of the Mortarch's command ability from page 97. That's cool. But I'm going to go ahead and read off another one for you guys in case you don't want to use Arcan, or if you don't have the model and you still want to use Legion of Sacrament. Another one that's cool is Dark Acolyte. This general is a wizard that knows the Arcane Bolt and Mystic Shield spells, as well as a single spell from one of the Lords of the Dead. If this general is already a wizard, they may generate an additional spell from one of the Lords of the Dead. Now, Legion of Sacrament is all about some wizards, and one of your new little abilities you get is the Master's Teachings. Whenever an enemy unit is destroyed before removing the last model, you may pick one of your grave sites within 6 inches of that model, roll a dice, then remove the model. On a 4-up, you may pick a friendly summonable unit that has been wholly destroyed and set it up again wholly within 9 inches of that grave site and more than 9 inches from any models. That's pretty neat. Black Disciples is friendly Legion of Sacrament wizards add 1 to their casting rolls across the board. That's really cool. So if you take like a Mortis engine, then you get an additional +1. So if you guys love necromancers and any sort of wizardry in the Death book, go for this. I would love to see how that performs for you guys. Same thing for command ability for across the Legion. They've got endless legions just like everybody does. For an artifact, you can get the black gem. So once per battle on your hero phase, you can declare the bearer will shatter the black gem. Pick a point on the battlefield within 8 inches of the bearer, roll a dice for each unit within 3 inches of this point. On a 6 or more, one model from that unit is slain. If the unit has any models of wounds allocated to it, then that model must be the model that is slain. So kind of like an instant, like, oh, bye-bye, you're dead, if you can get it. I know rolling a 6-up is a little tough. So moving on to Legion of Blood. Legion of Blood is same thing like Legion Sacrament. If you take a Mortarch, it has to be led by Neferta. So command trait, you can go ahead and do Walking Death. So if the hit roll for an attack made with one of the general's melee weapons is 6 up, you do not roll to wound. Instead, the target suffers a number of mortal wounds equal to the damage characteristic of that weapon. So if you have like a Vampire Lord in here on Zombie Dragon, and you don't want to take Neferta and you give him that, that's pretty brutal. If you just go in, you know, have maybe a Blood Lance on him and you go pop and you instantly deal 3 mortal wounds, that'd be pretty nice. So basically, everybody still has the same things such as Endless Legions and the Unquiet Dead, which is a whole graveyard thing you guys will see in the battle report. Special abilities for Legion of Blood is Immortal Majesty, so subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units that are within 6 inches of any friendly Legion of Blood units. Favorite Retainers is add 1 to the attack characteristics of all melee weapons used by friendly Legion of Blood Vampire Lords and Legion of Blood Blood Knights. So this is where the Blood Knights and the Vampire Lords come into play. If you guys don't want to use the Soulblight Allegiance, definitely go with Legion of Blood. If you don't want to use Legion of Blood, definitely go with Soulblight. So there you go. 2 ways to get past those obstacles. So moving into the artifacts of blood, I'm just going to go ahead and pick a random one. So you got Orb of Enchantment. Once per battle at the start of your combat phase, you can pick an enemy hero within 3 inches of the bearer. In that combat phase, the enemy hero may not pile in or attack or use abilities. That's really cool. That could be a game changer if you charge into somebody and you really do not need them to fight and you just want to get some free blows in there against a general, especially, say, a Stonehorn or, not a Stonehorn, you guys probably know what I'm talking about. The Beastclaw Raiders general, he's riding like a Thunder Tusk or whatever. They hit like trucks sometimes if they roll really well. So if you don't want him to attack, bam, use that. That's really it for Legion of Blood. So Legion of Night, you guys already seen that in that battle report. If you haven't, go check it out whenever you want to. This is led by Manfred von Karstein. If you take a Mortarch, it has to be him as the general. They've got the Bait, so add 1 to save rolls for friendly Legion of Night Death Rattle units that are wholly within your territory. And Ageless Cunning, instead of setting up a Legion of Night unit on the battlefield, you can place it to one side and say it is an ambush. You can do that up to 3 units. That's really cool. And a random command trait, Unholy Impetus. If this general slays any models in the combat phase, pick a friendly Legion Knight unit within 3 inches of the general, add 1 of the attack characteristics of that unit's melee weapons until the end of the phase. That's really nice. You guys will actually see that happen in the battle report. Another artifact is Morbeg's Claw. In your hero phase, you can declare the bearer will carve sigils in the ground with this claw. If you do so, they may not move, charge, or attack this turn, but you can add 2 to the casting rolls made for friendly Legion Knight Wizards within 12 inches of the bearer. That's brutal. Like I said, take a Mortis Engine and take a whole bunch of Necromancers, and you can just, you know, cast Van Hels's Danse Macabre, cast Lords of the Dead new spells, which we'll get to that in literally right here. So, Lore of Death Mages. Let me take a step back. There's a new thing called the Locus of Shaiish. If you roll an unmodified roll of a 9 or more whenever you cast a spell from Lore of Death Mages or Lore of Vampires, you can immediately cast that spell a second time against another unit if you want to. That's pretty amazing. That's if it doesn't get denied. So, Lore of Death Mages, one of the random abilities I'm going to pick out of here for you guys is Fading Vigor. So, has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick an enemy unit within 18 inches of caster that is visible to them. Until the start of your next hero phase, subtract 1 from the attack characteristics of that unit's melee weapons, and they can only roll a single dice when they charge for it. That is really, really neat. It basically slows them down quite a bit, makes them a little bit crappier in melee combat, and that is awesome if you need to weaken something that's a little hard to crack. So for Lore of Vampires, One more thing is when you're a wizard, if you're a Death Lord wizard, you go into lore of Death Mages. If you're a vampire wizard, you go into lore of vampires. So for lore of vampires, one of my favorite spells out of here is the Amaranthine Orb. So Amaranthine Orb has a casting value of 7. If successfully cast, pick a unit on the battlefield in 12 inches of caster and draw an imaginary straight line 1 millimeter wide between that point and the closest part of the caster. Roll the dice for each unit, friend or foe, apart from the caster, that has any models beneath this line. On a 4+, the unit suffers D6 mortal wounds. That is really cool. So you combine that with Locust of Shaiish, and you can cast that twice if you roll a 9 or more the first time. That is really cool, especially if you can maybe get a Vampire Lord with this spell to ambush from Legion of Night next to your enemy's battle line and just shoot a straight line down them. Excellent. If you guys play Total War Warhammer, there's like a spell like that the vampires can do. It's like a penumbral pendulum or something like that. It's like a scythe that swipes like that like 3 times, and if you get down a battle line of enemies, yeah, it's brutal. I love that game. Played on Steam all the time. So Allegiance abilities for Soulblight. It's Soulblight. If you guys don't know anything about it, it's Soulblight. It's nothing really that new. I don't really know off the top of my head if they changed anything. They've still got like the bloodlines, so like Dragon Warriors, Lords of Night, Necromantic, and Swift Death. I don't know if their command traits changed. And the Soulblight artifacts, one of them is the Sigil of the Sanguine Throne. So once per charge phase, you can re-roll a failed charge roll made for friendly vampire units in 12 inches of bear. So that's really cool if you want to spam out some Blood Knights, or if you just want to, you know, throw a whole bunch of Death Rattle in there and just have some vampires, you know, parade around behind them. So yeah, I mean, that's really the general answer to anything. I don't really see many Death players use a whole lot of Dire Wolves, but if you guys want to do that, go for it. Grand Alliance Death. There you go. I'm not going to bother explaining it, guys. It's in the General's Handbook too. I don't think anything has really changed from what I can see either. So, 2 new missions. There's one called Turn the Tables, where you got a really funky deployment zone like that. And you got Ancient Warriors, with a really interesting deployment zone like so. So, I actually hope to do a battle report with both of those soon. I'll explain to you guys there what that is about. They're really neat missions. The Path to Glory campaigns are really cool in here. So if you guys don't know what Path to Glory looks like, that's what it looks like, at least for the beginning rules. And then you got the Legions of Nagash Warband tables, and the little Legions of Nagash Warband little rosters. And it's pretty cool. They're pretty nasty from what I can read in Path to Glory. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 battalions in this book, and they are all good. They are all very good. I have yet to find a battalion in here that's crappy. So you got like the Nightfall Pact, the Court of New Lamia, Castellans of the Crimson Keep, Death March, the First Cohort, and Lords of Sacrament. These are very nasty battalions, and I hope to use them for you guys pretty soon. So one thing that's changed, and now that I'm getting into War Scrolls part of the book, is now ethereal units like Hex Wraiths, they changed the wording on them that whenever you go to cast, and this is on Neferta's Dark Mist spell as well, if you go to cast something that has, say, like Mystic Shield, or if they go to take a cover save, that can no longer happen. Because they have the ethereal rule or some other rule that has something like that, they've changed that rule to now say that you ignore negative and positive modifiers. So Hex Wraiths can never seem to get a better save than a 4+, which ain't really bad considering they can't go worse than that. So I actually made a mistake in my battle report. I cast Mystic Shield on my Hex Wraiths, and like 5 minutes later I was like, oh, I just realized they changed that. So yeah. So you've got Nagash in here, you got Arcan, you got Manfred, you got Neferta. So a new character in here is Prince Vordry. This is a vampire lord carrying a blood lance that's riding a zombie dragon. I'm not going to read you guys' rules for him verbatim because I think he should be on the Warhammer Age of Sigmar app. So if you guys want to go check him out, go check it out. It's free. So off the App Store. I don't know if it's on iPhone. I have an Android. I know, sorry. But Prince Vordry carries a blood lance. His mount is called Shortamere. So, and he has a 3-up save. And he hits on 3s, wound on 3s, -2 rend, and 2 damage. And I think when he charges, Blood Lance does 3 damage a pop with 4 attacks. That is really cool. He's got a spell called Quick Blood that casting value 7 is successfully cast. Add 1 to hit and wound rolls for the caster until the next hero phase. So then he hits on 2s, wounds on 2s with a Blood Lance. And that gets absurd. So you still got all the Morghast in here, Vampire Lords, Blood Knights, Vargheists, Fell Bats, Bat Swarms, Vampire Lord, Bloodseeker Palanquin, which is a new kind of like a crossbreed between what it seems to be like a Coven Throne and a Mortis Engine. I don't really know how to explain it. You got a Coven Throne, a Mortis Engine, Necromancer, Zombies, Corpse Cart with Unholy Lodestone, Corpse Cart with Balefire Brazier, Terrorgeist, Zombie Dragon, which Terrorgeist has changed. Instead of the Gaping Maw rule being as it used to be, it's each time you make a hit roll of a 6+ for this model's Fanged Maw, the attack is automatically successful. Determine damage normally, do not make a wound or a save roll, but increase the weapon's damage characteristic to 6. That is actually pretty cool. So instead of rolling a 6 up to do 6 mortal wounds, it's just if you roll a hit roll of a 6 damage. Nice. So the rest of them are White Kings, both with a Black Axe and a Baleful Tomb Blade, Black Knights, Graveguard, Skeleton Warriors, Cairn Wraith, Tomb Banshee, Hex Wraiths, Black Coach, Spirit Host, and Dire Wolves. And then at the very end of the book, you got your pitched battle profiles, which I'm not going to give you guys points because I don't want to get in trouble for making this video for you guys. So, all those War Scrolls I just read off are in this book. All those War Scrolls I just read off are able to be used in the Legions. So that means nothing from Forge World, to include the Mourngul, is able to be used with the new Legions. I know that really sucks. I'm sure Forge will FAQ it though. I don't doubt it. Otherwise, that would really suck that you'd have to use just like the normal Allegiance abilities to use a Mourngul. Also, Flesh Eater Courts are not a part of this book at all. They can only be used as allies for Legions. They are not in this book at all. No Ghoul Kings, no Crypt Ghouls, Horrors, Flayers, none of that. They are out of this book completely. They cannot be a part of any of the Legions. So, you will not be seeing them in any of the battle reports for Legions of Nagash, unfortunately. So, there you guys have it. There's the book. Hope you guys really enjoyed the little quick overview I like to give you guys. If you guys want to hear story time and I actually read the lore in it, let me know. I'll make a cool little video for you guys and I'll read it bit by bit for you. If not, don't worry about it. I don't have a problem with not reading it to you guys. I try to stick to just battle reports. I don't like to try and do painting videos because I'm not the best painter myself. I'm not a professional. I do an excellent job, but I'm not a pro. So, we're going to let you guys mull over all the details. Go ahead and slam on over to the Legions of Nagash battle report I just put up of Legion of Night versus Seraphon. It's a great one. And I will see you guys in the next video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. And I'm going to jump right over into a Malign Portents book review. And there's a lot of stuff in there. So we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everybody, and enjoy.